Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Today, we are featuring a top Jacksonville real estate agent, interior designer, and investor who has taken the market by storm. After launching her career in Tampa Bay, she moved to Jacksonville just 2 years ago and has already closed over $50 million in real estate volume while opening NetWorth Realty of Jacksonville. She's passionate about investing, designing, and helping others build wealth through real estate. Whether you're an investor, a home buyer, or an agent looking to grow, you won't want to miss her insights. So let's welcome Claire Sheehan to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm
Thank
very
you.
excited.
I'm excited to dig in here because as we talk pre-show here, you're not the what you and your husband have branched off here with Net Worth. I think other agents need to know what you're doing is out there. And obviously, what you guys are doing in renovating, flipping homes and so forth. Agents have buyers for those homes, and they need to know. They need to have you on their speed dial. Say, hey, what do you have coming up?
Yeah, actually, I use that a lot. Especially, I'm very listing heavy, just because I work with a lot of investors. So that's always the nice thing is kind of chatting with the listings after or the sellers or the investors or whoever it is, chatting with everyone, and seeing what their buyers are looking for. Because a lot of times, buyers agents, I'll build a relationship with them. They'll call me and be like, hey, I have a buyer looking for a 4-2 in the San Jose area. Like, what do you have coming up? And then I can go and kind of look in the inventory and see what's coming up, or maybe I have a personal project and I can even tailor it to their personal preferences. So it's really cool when I get to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Whether it's your new construction builders, there's other companies, obviously, like you guys that are doing similar type work, flipping properties. Some of these guys now have gone to buying these lots and building spec homes on.
Oh yeah.
I think it's very important for every real estate agent to have those people on their speed dial, because when they run across that client, a lot of times it's a first time home buyer and they're just looking for that small home. Well, these guys are buying these small lots. Excuse me, whether it's in St. Augustine or whether it's in Jacksonville, and they're not building a whole subdivision. They got a lot here or a couple lots, and they're building a couple spec homes, or in this case, renovating a lot of homes in some really great areas.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot. That's the very interesting thing, especially about like the outskirt of Murray Hill area, where you still get that affordable price point, like under like $230 or so.
Right.
Where you'll get a lot of new constructions, and then there'll be like random manufactured homes sprinkled in there too.
Yeah.
But it is so true, and you see a lot of different big companies coming in, buying up that, and really like transforming the area. I love the older homes though, just because I do a lot of fix and flips and design stuff. So like I live in a 1940s bungalow in Jack's Beach that you get to redo the original hardwood floors and keep some of the cool, like a skylight or the old,
they had skylights in 1940? I don't think so.
Kind of more.
I think that was probably put in the 80s.
Like the cool glass blocks that are in like different windows or like French doors. Like we have those, and it's really cool. Or the old kind of glass door handles. Like I love the homes that you can go into and like
little character to them.
Has a little character, has a little charm, and I think that's a big thing that Jacksonville is moving towards, but is kind of one of the last ones in Florida on seeing kind of branching out and getting more unique rehabs and renovations. Like you see a lot of in Jacksonville, kind of just the carpet bedrooms and more standard things in the kitchen, but especially how the market is now. And that's why it comes really handy talking to a lot of investors who are flipping and renovating, is I'll come in and help them be like, okay, let's kind of push the limit. Let's do a unique tile or a cool vanity or light fixture or mirror, and that really stands out because there's not a lot of people doing that in Jacksonville. So I think that's a massive opportunity.
Well, let me ask you this, because obviously we still have a lot of land to build.
Yeah.
Nassau County's going north to the Georgia line. St. John's is still got huge areas of new construction. Do you find, but the affordability is really, especially for first-time home buyers, and that's a challenge here. It's a challenge everywhere. Home affordability. The price point of some of these flips. Are you seeing a distinct line between people who want new construction, or some of these people are looking at new construction, going, "Wow, that's out of my price range, but I can go get this newly renovated home over here that has even." It's not brand new, but hopefully has brand new appliances and that sort of thing. And a first-time home buyer is not going to be put in a spot.
Yeah.
Should something go down?
I mean, it's all relative because I came from Tampa Bay, so the prices compared to Tampa Bay are practically half. Like my bread and butter in Tampa Bay would probably be like 400, 500, 600, 700, whereas you can get almost the same thing here for under 400,000, around 300,000. So it's kind of crazy, Jacksonville being one of the oldest cities in America, but not quite being on like the prices of development, which is a really cool spot to be, because I know a lot of people for years have been like, oh, Jacksonville is gonna get this or that, but it hadn't really happened. But now like the ground is broken, it's happening, it's moving. There's $5 billion going into downtown. All the different people here, there's quite a buzz, but you can still get things for $50,000 outside of downtown, which me as like an investor, we have kind of a diverse portfolio of rentals. We don't quite do Airbnbs, we tried it a little bit, but we love just like long-term rentals and flips. Right. And it's such a massive opportunity because you don't have to have $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in your pocket to, you know, try to buy whole, get equity, and build generational wealth if you want to here, which is a little bit different than like the traditional real estate space. But I think it's really cool for even these buyers that are just buying regular houses for their family, because they can buy something for under $200,000 very easily. Like, especially I sell a lot in the kind of Tallulah, North Shore, Panama Park neighborhoods, which still feel are kind of in like a safer pocket, but you're still getting a really affordable price point that I could just see really skyrocketing and being a really cool spot to be if you just buy and hold that for another 5-10 years.
Are you starting to see, and it sounds like you're talking about, you know, on the edge, you're starting to see some neighborhoods transition where, you know, they were they had a heyday at one time, and then obviously, you know, over time, as houses get older, you know, people, you know, they got money, maybe they want to go to newer homes, and some neighborhoods just get older and generational, they're handed down. Maybe a lot of them become rentals over time, but then they reach a point where the opportunity to go in and get it for 50, 100,000 because it's just totally run down, and turn around and, you know, put $50, $100,000 in it and still make a profit and sell it for a good, valuable price point. Yeah. It's starting to change some of these neighborhoods. And I don't want to use I want to say clean up. It's not the proper term to use, but just start to transition them back into a desirable neighborhood where families are looking to come back into, and, you know, the school gets better and so forth by the good people that move back into an area.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I see that all the time. I think there's so much that still could be done, just the potential. But I do love every neighborhood has its own character and style of homes. And I love like historic Springfield just because I have a friend that lives in a 1893 house, I think, which is just so cool with like a double balcony. And those older homes, I feel like they were made a little bit different. The new constructions are really cool, but I love stuff that has, you know, maybe higher ceilings or bigger windows and stuff like that. But it is nice. I mean, buyers can, especially in this market, I'm kind of telling people it's a balanced market, but buyers do have a little bit of meat in the game. You know, they can get a lot more closing cost, or a lot of people have like where they can get 100% financing, or like Jacksonville, I feel like the city's really pushing to make it affordable for buyers with like the H2H program, which I think that one's kind of suspended because the money has run out a little bit.
Yeah, all those have the little.
It always refreshes, you know, like every so often, but there's a lot of cool initiatives like that. So I feel like a lot of buyers who are in that lower price point might not have ever thought they could buy a home. I'm working with a buyer right now that's 72 years old, kind, sweet man, never really thought that could be like a dream of his, and then, you know, have been working with him and showing him, hey, it is a possibility, and you can just see their eyes light up with the excitement and making a dream a reality, which is really neat. So that's what makes my job awesome.
I'm going to transition because we're going to revisit this in detail. I'm going to take a little commercial here, as you've got a nice hot pink one of these in your bag there that's at your feet there. Remy Graphics makes these great mugs for me. Let me get it in the light there. Let me get it right. Remy Graphics. It's got the show logo, Remy Graphics, on the other side. Laser engraved gifts is what they do. The mug is obviously just one item of many that they do. She will do one-offs for you. So if you're doing little housewarming gifts and want to, John and Sally, welcome to Jacksonville, you know, she'll do those for you. But Remy Graphics, she makes these for me. And Claire has a nice hot pink one in her bag there to take home.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Let's restart so everyone gets a little background on you. Born in Texas, big in volleyball, All right, you go off to college. You end up at South Florida, as you were telling me pre-show. Give everyone a little background, as your college career is coming to an end. You meet your husband in college,
Yeah.
and then what it takes you, and then what leads you up to actually start dabbling in real estate.
Yeah. So played volleyball at University of South Florida. Tore my whole knee, ACL, MCL, LCL, meniscus. My husband did the same thing, which that honestly, it's interesting.
Did you meet in rehab? Is that where?
We were actually, there's a thing called a SAC, which is the Student Athlete Advisory Committee.
Right.
So it was, a few people from each team would get together, bi-weekly, chat about events or how to make athletics better. And I was the secretary and he became the president.
Okay.
And so we kind of met because I had this big brace on, and then he then tore his a few weeks later. So we kind of connected that way.
Oh my goodness.
But it was a blessing in disguise, and it's cool to see how there's things in life that you're like, oh, that's just you step one way. But me and my husband always say, like, we don't believe in coincidences, everything happens for a reason. It's what you take with it and run and just be grateful each day to live the life, and, seize opportunity. So, but met there, worked in Tampa Bay for years. But yeah, I've just always kind of been by nature more of a creative person. I love to paint and love to cook and was always into graphic design, illustration, advertising, marketing. So I think that's what a really cool thing about what I do is I get to exercise that creativity, but I also do have a business background and mindset. Like I love the entrepreneur and building a portfolio and not having a traditional job and just getting to kind of being an athlete. I've always been very creative and competitive on stuff. So I think being able to really take the initiative on what you're doing and build something incredible with a team or through yourself and make an impact in a city is awesome. So I feel really passionate about that. I think especially in real estate, traditional real estate, it is marketing, so this year is kind of a transition year for me, which is really exciting because years past have just been so busy on going on inputs of people coming to me with like investment stuff and kind of staying in an organized chaos in a way. But this year is the first year I get to be really intentional and market and brand and build a vision on what I see the potential to be. So I'm really going to kind of start experimenting with different videos, different content, different experiences, and see where that goes.
So, your husband gets into real estate first. Tell us a little bit. Well, I think really tell us a little bit of how he ended up at NetWorth, he tells you to get your license, you go and get it, and next thing you guys are getting deeper and deeper into the real estate. Tell us how that came about and how NetWorth met you guys.
Yeah, for sure. So Riley, my husband, went application crazy after college, was meeting with all these people, and met our mentor Joshua too, who's our broker, owner of NetWorth Realty of Tampa. He became just an amazing, impactful person in our life, introduced us to the people we now do like professional coaching with, and is just a amazing person that has created, who we are today. Mm-hmm. So can't thank him enough for giving us the opportunity. But Riley went in there, became number one in the nation for NetWorth Realty, was incredible and still incredible what he does on more the investment real estate side of things. During that time...
Well, let me tell you, so the people who are listening, when you say in the investment real estate side of things, what do you mean by that?
Our company closes on about like 20 to 30, sometimes 35 properties a month that are all distressed. You can't really get regular financing on them. Mm-hmm. So we close on them. Some of them, hold on to. Some of them, we have other investors that come in, fix and flip, or, buy and hold, different, things in that regard. So if someone came to him and be like, hey, Riley, it's just a house, like, I want to buy a house, and it's just a friend, he'd be like, go to Claire. I mean, I could do it, but she is the expert on that. So He doesn't do traditional real estate in the sense that everyone probably listening to this knows or thinks about.
Right.
But we did have an in-house, listing agent that would help a lot, if the properties, once they're renovated, sell them. And she was doing that primarily. And so I got my real estate license and just started doing open houses. Like a regular realtor, you're like, all right, I guess I start with open houses and see and just learn and be around and kind of jump in. And so the listing agent decided to move to, I think it was Paraguay randomly. So they're like, hey, I'm moving to Paraguay. And so Joshua too knew me. I knew the business and had been around it. And so hadn't done one deal and was just like, I believe in you. I think you're amazing. Will you take over this role? I was like, absolutely, let's do it. So I always tell people I literally just jumped into the deepest end of the ocean and went for it and closed, I think it was 52 deals in my first year doing that.
Wow.
And it was an incredible journey.
So the investor side, he's out actually finding these properties, and he's got the investors' money to, in probably a lot of places, pay cash, right? For
Absolutely.
these, to get the best. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he also breaking down himself, or is he bringing in contractors to say, this is what needs to be done to this house, and this house is going to cost this much to get it up to speed?
Yeah. And that's why they're the experts, and that is their day in and day out, is finding distressed properties and creating a whole rehab budget on knowing like, hey, if I buy it at this is what needs to go into it, and this is what it can resell for, and being very specific on that side of things. So that is his expertise. And that's what's really nice, though, is because I can have such a deep understanding of that, but also work with all the houses once they're renovated and work with regular buyers and sellers, but having the understanding of where a house can be, even if it is distressed, what needs to go into it, what that cost. A lot of people don't understand that. You know, a lot of people think a roof's going to cost $20,000. And you're like, we always joke around, we're like, if a roofer comes to you and says $20,000 for a roof, you better be clapping and shaking their hand and being like, I hope you're enjoying the lobster for dinner every night. Because, like, you know, it can be, a lot of people just don't know. Right. That's not a bad thing, but it's just nice to have support and education behind that, especially just with regular buyers on the back end too. Like, say they're going through an inspection and they see a double tap or a aluminum wiring or something like that, I can know automatically, like, oh, okay, that's X, Y, and Z.
It's going to cost somewhere between here and there.
And really just give them kind of the peace of mind and the calm, and have, you know, contractors that can come in and, you know, can help them out however they want to. Or another thing that was really cool is I do Zillow leads, and so I had a Zillow buyer call me, and they found this beautiful property in Deer Creek this last year, and they loved it, but it was kind of more of like a 90s house, not bad, but just needed a little bit of a flair, hadn't really been updated. And so showed them the house, and they kind of learned what I did and my vision and projects I've done. And so I got to go in and renovate the whole master suite and the floors and the lighting, and transform an upstairs into a cool, like, man den. So it's nice because they actually told me, they're like, we would have never thought about doing that and probably would have passed on this house even though we love the layout, but knowing of the potential of what we
so
could
how'd
make
you
something.
dig into that a little bit? So you had a buyer. This is not one of your homes that your husband had bought and flipped. This is just a house that's out there, existing home that's out there. They see these things. They did a renovation loan, or they just had the cash to do it, and they put it in your hands to execute?
Yeah, so they just bought it with a regular conventional loan. Beautiful property in Deer Creek. I think it was like a 3.5 or so, probably about 3,000 square feet. But we went in there, walked it. They chatted about what they loved, what they didn't love, what they wanted to be done, and then got under contract at a great price. Had a large seller concession that helped them save more money at their closing table, so they could use that, just automatically use cash, and renovate the bathroom or the man den or whatever they really wanted to do. But I helped facilitate that, get the tile, get the wood, get the patterns, and kind of bring it to life. So that was a really cool project.
Because your team was able to go in there pretty swiftly and say, hey, yeah, you want to list this done, this is what it's going to cost. So they said, oh, all right, that's within our budget. In this case, they had the cash. They didn't have to do a renovation loan or anything. They just bought it and then just paid cash to have you come in. That is a man, that's what's a skill that I'm many agents should be searching for, is the ability to do that. Because I think, especially with the affordability challenge that the country is having, the affordability to go in, and of course I always, being in lending, we do renovation loans. Hey, you find the house, it doesn't have a pool, okay, well, we can do a renovation loan and get you the pool. That address and that house is unique. If the location, there's only one location in that piece of dirt anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So if that's your thing and it's just a pool, well, let's just do a renovation loan and do it. In your case, because I'm sure agents run across this all the time, and we talk about it often on the podcast, people will walk into houses and sometimes just the paint color throws them off.
Yep.
And it's like, all we have to do, we'll paint the walls for you, but they just, or I don't think my king size bed will fit in this master bedroom.
Yeah.
Dude, it's Florida. All the master bedrooms are big enough for king size beds. All right.
Yeah.
But it throws people off. So to be able to translate that vision to you, and that one sounded pretty, I want to say easy.
It was straightforward.
Yeah. These guys obviously understood your skill, but I imagine you've had other customers that you kind of had to explain, hey, this is the area of town you want to be in, right? This is school, right? Okay, so we got everything. House looks great, but you just want this. I can do that.
It's intimidating for a lot of people. I'm very used to, we go into properties that are not good. Like they have mold or they need roof.
Could be money pits for a lot of people.
Some of the ones we do need $150,000 maybe plus dollars into the property. That intimidates a lot of people and that scares a lot of people. So it's nice when you can find a property like the one in Deer Creek, perfectly financeable, but maybe just needs a bathroom or a kitchen or paints or new light fixtures and that kind of stuff to show it a little bit easier. But it takes a lot of people can't envision, all right, let's knock down this wall. Let's even out the countertops. Let's add, can lighting. It's scary to them, but there is a lot of, that house, I think it ended up selling at like $625 with like $25,000 in concessions or something great like that. But with the renovations, I think it's close to like a $700,000 value now. So it's like instant equity that these buyers have, which is amazing for them.
Well, they put some money in, but and talk about that a little. I heard someone mention the other day, and I actually said that is so 2006, right? People thought, hey, if I put $1 in renovation to this house, I'm going to get that dollar out. That isn't always true, is it?
No. And also, people can really tell quality right now because inventory is a little bit higher. So if you go into a house that just has nothing against carpet, but a lot of the cheaper renovations, they'll put just carpet, white shaker cabinets, silver hardware, like that's doesn't really stand out. I'm not saying it's bad, but you can tell the quality difference so much easy from that of a house that they went in and put a specialty tile, or instead of a 5mm vinyl they put 10 or 20mm, and that goes a long way. Just when there is 3 houses that might be pretty similar and you go in and see that one has a little bit better or something, people are going to choose that one.
Speak to the, we talked about a little pre-show, because I think for agents who might be listening right now, what are buyers looking for? Now, they may know the answer to listener right now because, oh yeah, I'm selling a house, I know they're looking for this. But when you go into one of these homes that was built in the 70s and needs $75,000-$100,000 in work, what are some staple things that you need to do to that home?
Into a distressed house?
Into a distressed house. That I wouldn't say you're gutting it down to the studs, but
yeah. Usually any of the properties that we find on like our NetWorth Realty of Jacksonville, they need everything. So we account for a full renovation, full kitchen gut, full bathrooms, paint, lighting, fixtures. We always look at roof, HVAC, water heater, electric panel, plumbing. So if it needs it all, we'll account for it all. But a lot of times, maybe we'll account for it all and it doesn't need a water heater, or it doesn't need, maybe the cabinets can be salvaged and just painted and put new hardware on it. But typically a lot of our projects, we just like to do them right. Like we really like to put a quality product out there that we're proud of. So typically we do it all.
You think having that attitude of, like I said, I would call it doing it right as well, because your competition, say on the new construction side, or even just a home built in the last decade versus this 30-year-old home that's never been renovated, that's what you're comparing to. So you really need to go the extra mile, but obviously you're finding the right properties that are could you get away and maybe make a little more profit, but you're selling that house that much faster because you've gone and just took out the cabinets and modernized it, because that's what people are looking for.
Yeah, and especially like on me and my husband's personal projects, like we're not looking to have a home run every single project. Like we're more of a quantity game. You know, maybe we want to do 10, 12 a year. Like, we don't need to do one or two and do something crazy. Like, we want to do something quality. And also Jacksonville, even though it's a very large city, like, it's small, especially in our realm of like more the investment stuff or even just regular real estate. Everyone kind of knows everyone, and like word can spread fast, and a good reputation goes a long way. And like staying true to your word and having good ethics and core values. We're massive on our core values in our company and office. Like, we really want to be excellent and show honor and gratitude. And that has been why we have excelled and built such strong relationships in such a short amount of time.
We were talking earlier about how agents should have you on their speed dial to see, hey, what's coming up, that type of thing. And I think you said it correctly, having that reputation, because if they bring a buyer to you and they go into one of your renovations and you've, kind of cut corners and, if you want to say craftsmanship, whatever, replacing appliances is pretty easy, but it's those other little things like putting the cabinets in correctly. Cause some of these houses, like you said, you were talking earlier about the original flooring and so forth. Well, some of these houses, the foundation needs a little work. The house is not even level.
Oh, yeah.
You got to do all this kind of stuff, and to spend that extra money to make sure the house is squared away for someone for the 30-year loan that they're going to get on it, that it's actually, this house has 30 years more in life now because you've corrected the foundation. You've done these little extra things.
An interesting thing on that, though, is sometimes people will over improve. Like on the investment side of things, that I'll have to have conversations where they'll put in a
if you want to, I don't want you to lean behind the mic. I don't, yeah, that's good. That's good. I don't want it to take away from seeing your face. So yeah.
But sometimes these people will over improve and come in and put a $15,000 fence, like an 8-foot tall fence, and they'll put 10 grand of asphalt driveway that's new where they didn't need to do that. And now they're losing money on trying to resell because it's not worth that with the comp. So that's always a big tricky thing, is like, if it is your forever home and you're going to be there for 30, 40, 50 years, you can do more the custom handmade tile or different things like that. But it just depends on how long, what's your end game,
Right. I think, I talk to some of these people buying their first home and they think it's their last home. It's like, no, you're going to either get tired, something's going to happen, you're going to change, move somewhere else. And we're such in a transient city, but yeah, you're right. The people do need, and agents need to be a little more aware of that too. Really, I think there's a lot of agents out there. There's a lot of great agents that are asking those questions. There's a lot of other agents, the other half, that are not asking those questions, and they're putting people in like new construction neighborhoods. And now they're having to move or transfer, and they've only been there 18 months and there's still new construction going on, and now they can't sell it.
I had a friend like that in Springfield. They brought this beautiful 1893 house, and they ended up having to put like a good amount into plumbing and different stuff like that. And they're in the Navy, so they got transferred, and they're like, oh man, like, we'll rent it out, now, even though it's not the most profitable rental, but they're not going to sell it off and want to lose money on it. So that's the only thing that gets tricky. I mean, especially in Jacksonville, is such a massive military city that has a lot of different people, which a lot of people, this is their home base, and this is where they're going to be at forever. But sometimes things happen and people move. So because we got a slight, not under a real tangent, but just a sidebar there, but what are some of the staples that are granite countertops a must even in some of these $250,000 homes? What are some of the things that when someone walks in? Because I imagine when you fix it up, you want people to walk in and go, wow. Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
What are some of the wow things that you like to put in these homes that really get a return?
It depends on the price point. One of my favorite things to do in a kitchen, for instance, is a nice like farmhouse sink. I always use quartz. Quartz is a great product because it's hard, it's sturdy, it doesn't stain easily, and it has a pretty good price point. I love a thing called a Calcutta quartz that has a little bit of a vein to it, a little bit of style, not too crazy. We also love, if the price point calls for it, we have this beautiful house in St. Augustine that we renovated, like truly one of a kind, and we did like a double waterfall countertop. So we love doing that in higher end flips. Bring it down, it really elongates the kitchen, looks really nice. I love doing What else do I love?
Is hardwood, I mean, I imagine hardwood floors, is that, what do you, from flooring standpoint, what do you,
It just
what's
depends.
the thing there?
Like what I was telling you earlier, I live in a 1940s bungalow in Jacks Beach. And like you're talking about the foundation, there's some waves in. That's just kind of what comes to the territory with some of those older houses. It's not something to be afraid of. You just have to know the difference of a little bit of waves and like soft spots, you know? But for that one, we've refinished all the hardwood floors, really kept the integrity and the character of it. However, in other properties, we'll go in with a nice 20 millimeter luxury vinyl plank that's waterproof, that looks gorgeous and lasts forever. So I think it just kind of depends whenever I go into a project, whether it's a buyer's project or a client's project, really figure out like what their style is, what they're going for. Do they want to be cozy? Do they want to be eclectic? Do they want to be modern? And then base the decisions off that, because some people might not go in and like hardwoods, whereas other people like me love it. It feels so homey.
Right. I imagine you guys have come across, because if you've done enough homes, you've had to find one where all of a sudden you get into it and all of a sudden go, oh my God, we didn't check that, and that is going to cost us another whatever, right?
Yeah.
So probably push the budget, if not blow the budget out,
Yeah.
or what the expected budget out, right? We've all watched HGTV and the drama of when they rip open the wall and realize it's all mold or termites or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Because the challenges, I think, especially in some of these older parts of Jacksonville, is like the cast iron sewer pipes and so forth. What do you guys do for due diligence? And if you can tell it in a way that if an agent's listening and they're going out and showing some of these homes, what can you teach them and to have their eyes open and be looking for, or insist that the inspector does on some of these older homes with these type things?
The good thing with the projects that I personally do with fix and flips or even just rentals is like I have my husband's eyes and I have my whole team's eyes, and that's what they do every single day is look at these houses, and they know what to look for. They know to look for the connections on the plumbing, or the architectural shingle roof versus 3-tab roof versus all the different types of things on that regard, or the old windows and how they latch. So there's different things like that. So any projects that we're getting into, we're over accounting for most of them, because you don't want surprises. You don't want something to be in a pit, especially like what we do. Like if we're working with people that do a lot of fix and flips, like you want them to be successful and go back and keep doing projects. So we usually over account for things. However, it's always good to have a contractor come in, like if you're doing a whole project, before you buy it, and they'll walk it with you. Maybe the first time you have your eyes on the project, build a relationship, and they're walking at the same time, and get 1, 2, 3 bids that make sense for you. And they're, those contractors are going to know to look for a cloth wiring or galvanized piping. But sometimes that's just what you get in Florida. Florida is, you do get those older homes, and sometimes you're not going to know what's underneath the concrete slab. But that is kind of what it is.
I lost train of thought of what my next question to feed up on that, but we'll go on to another subject here slightly. 52 homes your first year. So you didn't have, obviously many of the agents I have on are your signed up with a brokerage and so forth. Obviously, you and your husband fell into that, so I don't want to dwell too much on it from the standpoint of learning the game from a broker. But you mentioned this gentleman that was mentoring. I guess you and your husband owns the Tampa franchise there. Tell us some of the things that he's doing his part in real estate. And I imagine he was trained, obviously, to do what he was doing. He was interested in it because he was absorbing and did very well, your husband. And then you came in. What are some of the things that you had to learn, and maybe even learn about yourself in working with real estate, if you can touch on that?
Absolutely. I mean, I truly had like one day of training kind of with this woman. Then she moved to Paraguay. So I really just jumped in. I had a team of, the rest of NetWorth of Tampa behind me that could ask questions, but they didn't do exactly what I did. So I just kind of had to.
They were more on the front end finding the homes, right? And renovating, and you're receiving the end product, right? Is that, if we want to simplify it?
I'm working with a lot of investors who say, hey, my house is ready. Like, come on over. So honestly, I think I just kind of learned to be charismatic. I love connecting with people and kind of being in a million. So being all different kinds of people and just making them feel, like they trust and feel comfortable, massive on communication. So just communicating with them what's going on and just kind of learning the game a little bit, learning how to, I always joke around, we have a new person on our team. I'm like, hey, like flirt a little bit, not in a bad way, but when you're talking to different agents or buyers,
women have a power that they don't always use, but go ahead.
Yeah, and also just asking deeper questions. A lot of people don't ask deeper questions.
Yeah.
If you hear someone say like, hey, I don't know because of, I don't know because of the roof. Well, okay, like if we get an inspector out there and figure out what age the roof is or if there's anything wrong, are you 100% ready to go? Mm-hmm. Oh, well, I don't know. That makes a difference, so asking those deeper questions, and that can be relative to any kind of circumstance.
Yes.
That's just an example, but asking deeper questions, really understanding if it is I'm selling an investor's house, like what is their main goal? Are they going for speed? Are they going for a home run? Are they going for better terms? And so I always really ask them that, and then try to set up my conversations with agents bringing an offer so that I can be the best I can for them. But also kind of just touching on that is like developing my core values. So making every single decision off of honor or gratitude or grit or excellence, because once you do that, everything else falls in line.
You listen to my show? You've listened to some show.
A little bit, yeah.
Yes,
of course.
The grit and the excellence.
You're the
I love that.
podcast in Jacksonville, obviously.
According to ChatGPT, yeah. Well, you were tipping on something, and I'm going to, being on the lender side of things, you have to be, especially, I don't know if especially is the word, because even some of these people who have money doesn't mean they've kept their finances squared away or can document their income properly. Mm-hmm. You have to keep your ears open, and if you've been in sales long enough, people will sell themselves. Mm-hmm. A lot of people in real estate say, well, I'm not a salesperson. Well, yeah, because a lot of times the house can sell itself. They just love it, love the location, whatever. Oh, this is the one I want. But you have to keep your ears open, because as a real estate agent, you've got to take it from getting the contract written, accepted, and then all the way to closing. And if you have something you could share with the lender, like, hey, I don't know if I really couldn't get out of them where their money comes from. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of agents who call me and say, hey, I need you to call this person because I can't get out of them much. They don't want to, or maybe the agent's a little bashful about asking about finances, like, hey, where's your money coming from? How much you plan to put down, or anything like that. So they want me to ask that. So the buyer expects me to ask that. So they're naturally giving that information because they already expect that. So, but keeping your ears open for those things that could cause an issue in the transaction, phase of things, whenever they're talking about. But I think the important thing is I would bring up finances. I see a lot of agents are bashful about it, but there's some basic things like how much you plan to put down.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, you have that money in savings? Oh no, I got to sell my other house. Okay, well now we got some other thing.
Different story.
Yeah, yeah. You don't want me to have to tell you that. Oh, hey, by the way, I talked to your client and they have to sell their other house to be able to buy this one.
Yeah. Yeah. A big thing also, I have a client right now that's a VA buyer. They wanted to offer on a property, but they had to have $25,000 of seller credit, which is very large to be able to qualify for this house. So the numbers were a little bit tough, and the seller eventually couldn't, go down as low as they needed to. But this guy needed to pay off like a credit card and then a car to make the loan work to be able to qualify, right? So we looked at another house that was $50,000 less, right? And so this buyer still wanted $25,000 to do whatever he wanted with it, but the lender's like, okay, he doesn't technically need it, because I was chatting, hey, does he need it or does he want it? And that's a difference. Obviously, if I'm working for the buyer, I want to get them the best deal possible that they need, but I need to know those specific things so I can go to bat and really fight for the best terms and make it work for the seller and the buyer. So like knowing some of those details of need and want, even though both four-letter words make a big difference.
Well, for anyone listening, the VA, you have your 4% seller concession that's standardized in the VA, but the seller can pay off credit cards above and beyond that 4%. They give them 4% to pay for closing costs or whatever. They can give them another whatever percent to pay down or whatever to incentivize them to buy their house. So VA's a unique cat, as far as to me, it's the best loan out there, because and the more you know about it, the little pockets like that, paying off credit cards for them. But anyway, um, you mentioned grit,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a subject I've been talking about. I read the book by Angela Duckworth. Have you read that book?
I haven't read that one
Yeah,
yet.
you should read that book. But I'm creating a talk on grit in real estate agents. Having spoken, to your episode 252, I think a lot of real estate agents go through periods of time where they're, um, they check themselves, or they're thrown a curveball, and because you're so passionate involved with the client and so forth, and or of course, things are slow, and it's like, hey, that's my deal this month, and you're gonna, you get checked, and you go, hey, am I doing? Is this what I should be doing?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, I call it the LLC:
Okay.
love, laughter, and consistency.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to ask you in a minute here, what you love about real estate, but the laughter part, you being a young person, your experiences are building. When you get as old as me, you look back and people throw you a curveball, or if you believe and you have faith, he throws you a curveball to challenge you to be better, is what we hope. That's why he's doing it. So today we laugh. There's a lot of things that can happen, and we go, oh my God. And then we, think about it, go, I've overcome this before. I've done that, done this, and you laugh about it. That's what I call the laughter part. So if there's I want you to think of something that's, kind of set you back, or just maybe pushed you back in your chair, and you're like, oh man, all right, no, I'm going to see the glass is half full on this, and I'm going to go this way. It was something you just laughed about and pressed on. So, so the first, and then consistency is simple, what you're doing consistently in your business. So, love. Why do you love real estate? And especially what you guys are doing, because I think it's unique. It's not, like I said, you're not your standard real estate agent. You guys are involved in these fix and flips and so forth. And to see a house that's got weeds growing up and the plumbing needs to be changed, and then all of a sudden come in, the bathrooms and the kitchen's all been redone, and you're like, just feels good, right?
There's several things I love about real estate. First, connecting with all different kinds of people. As we were touching on earlier, Jacksonville is such an international market. So meeting people that have had almost nothing, coming from Serbia or Albania, and coming over and really creating a life for themselves and their family, and creating wealth through rentals or flips. Like, it's just really incredible to see their journey and path. Mm-hmm. But I also love working with the team. We have an incredible team. Unlike some other realtors, go into the office each day. We're by the team, we're chatting, we're collaborating, we're being by each other. And I think that's really cool, but also just creating beautiful spaces. I love going into a house that's been neglected, and some people would think ugly, oh, just tear it down, and going in and creating something beautiful that people would never recognize.
Yeah. Give us the laughter part. What's something that's kind of set you back, gave you a little checkup from the neck up, but you pressed on?
I think, and this kind of goes into also the consistency, but I try to just stack my wins. So especially if there is a tougher time, whether it's in the market or things are slower, or for us, we had an incredible business that was rolling very heavily in Tampa Bay, but we saw the potential of coming out here, opening up the brokerage, and building the future of possibility. And so that was a little bit of a tough time. We had to have an extreme grit and come in here new, fresh, in a place where a lot of times Jacksonville people have lived here their whole lives, and their aunt and uncles and cousins have lived their whole lives. Right. So you got to build that trust and relationships. And so that was a tough time coming in, really identifying and saying, this is who I want to be. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to build relationships, try to be excellent, and be the best version of myself that I can be each day, and things will come in line, and just enjoy life. Life's too short to not, smell the roses or make lemonade out of lemons. There's always a silver lining. Like we were chatting earlier, whenever I blew out my knee, that would have changed. I could have been a broad playing, professional volleyball if I wanted to, and it's interesting because that was such a blessing from God and from everything else, because it led me to being in this seat. There's so many little things like that that you don't realize are for you, and just having that mindset of you're never losing, because if you learn from any kind of loss, you're winning.
Yeah. Very well said. I think a lot of people underestimate, even as a young person, me looking back going, hey, if I was 23, 24 years old and I had this opportunity, hell yeah, I'm on it. Right. But as you you get older and you look, today is like, oh, okay, now I got kids, I got more responsibility. We would think about it more, but you underestimate the grit that you guys needed to do that, and to look back, because if it didn't pan out well, you would go back and have some regrets. Yeah, I should have stayed there. I shouldn't have left that place and gone over there. I could have just made a great living just hanging out in Tampa. It was rolling over there, and to do what you guys did, and I'm sure you had some trials and tribulations, some months where you're, I always like to say, eating bread and water, right? you cut down on the expenses because you got to get it going, and then the rest is history for you guys right now. Which I don't see an end in sight. Maybe you might have to move further out as time, because there's still a lot of places as the move into Clay County and so forth, that expressway. St. Augustine still has a lot of places that can be turned over.
Oh, yeah.
and moved out. And there's another, who knows, probably your career in real estate before we could see an end to what you guys are doing. Plus, as you said, your goal this year was to get out and do a little more mainstream, show more from the buyers and listing of more of your already existing homes that don't need a gut, that are, and because now you have all this experience in the real estate. So
we have big goals. I mean, right now we work around 100-mile radius around Jacksonville. So we do a lot in St. Augustine, do a lot in Jacksonville. But a former person I knew read this book, and they called it Big, Hairy, Audacious Goals. I think it was like HAG, so that was the abbreviation of it. And that one really hit home, because if you don't have those big, incredibly intimidating goals that seem impossible, you're like, whoa, like, can you do it? You're not going to achieve them. We looked back, every single year we look back at our goals. Our office, NetWorth Realty of Jacksonville, got #1 in the nation by volume out of all these other offices that maybe been around 15, almost 20 years. And we did that under 2 years being open, I was just so proud of everyone in our team, because we had those big goals. We kept reaching and achieving the goals and going above it. So it is cool to have such drive, and having them written down, talk about them, and live through those goals each day. And there's nothing that can't be touched.
It sounds like the NetWorth Realty, core ownership or whatever, has a blueprint of obviously success. Would you say there's like 27? I think, was that the number? Something, 20-something
27
markets that you're in, and imagine, they've already gone in and evaluated that for you, and to send people like you and your husband into an area, because I imagine it's what they're probably doing is taking successful people from a successful market like Tampa, and then branching over to Jacksonville, and stretching them out, because they know the blueprint in there. But when you talk about the hairy, audacious goals, the first thing that comes to my mind is, because I think we have them in our life, and maybe you haven't. So if you haven't, great. But we always have that naysayer in there. Have you experienced that and had to maybe, almost as a lot of personal development people, almost distance yourself from that person? Say, oh, that's risky. Oh, because every house you guys buying is a risk. Now, obviously, with NetWorth Realty, I imagine you're using investor money, but that investor money can be shut off at any day if you're not giving them a return.
There's a lot we could dive in about that.
Yeah.
Luckily, both me and Riley have very supportive families, but we also have a lot of families that have always had more just a 9-to-5 job. So that makes a big difference just whenever we do go out here. And we came out here and we're pretty much on our funds, we have to make it happen. Going on, we call it the playbook, just run the play, so they do set up things for us to make it, levels for success, and you just follow, but you do have to make it your own. So especially both of us going into real estate, it is very scary and intimidating for other people that we love around, but they say,
oh, you're going 100% commission? Oh my God. Yeah.
And that doesn't intimidate me or my husband. Honestly, we thrive off that. We love that so much, because we are athletes and we're competitive, and we're like, let's go get after it, and just see that there's no cap in sight. But they always say, you are the top 5 people that you spend the most time around, but I really believe in here that you are the most 5 people that you let influence you, because if you are exposed to the right people, we do like personal coaching calls each month, and we do a mastermind. We do all these different things. And when you get in rooms of people that are millionaires, billionaires, whatever it is, even if it's not monetary, maybe they're a millionaire in their relationship or in different other things in life that they're amazing at.
Right.
And listening and getting exposed by those people, just you keep getting leveled up and leveled up. And so that's been the cool thing of us, whether it's our family or friends or other people that maybe had doubts about themselves or get very intimidated when we go out and do these rentals or flips or whatever, is really kind of just developing and showing them like what life can be and what it can look like. And I think that's really cool, seeing people just grow on their journey of exploration of where they want life to go, if that makes any sense.
No, I mean, it's refreshing that young people, you obviously, whoever this mentor was, not saying he's the only one in your life, but what you're expressing across this high level that even people that, well, older than me, my parents, although my parents were more on the entrepreneurial side, like we are, but the, those people, that were locked in, hey, the safe play, which, if you can, whatever, everyone has a different mindset of success, but when you have a plumbing issue, you're not going to somebody who's never had a plumbing issue. You guys are calling the plumber to come in and tell us what's this going to cost.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, unfortunately take advice from people who have no experience in where they want to go. And I think one of the greatest, many people said this, I've heard this, we see it a lot, of course, online. We're seeing all these reels, if you get any personal development reels or stuff like that, don't take, advice from someone who isn't where you want to go or hasn't been where you want to go either way, you know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of us shoot down our a lot of dreams are killed before they even, get the force of watering.
Well, a lot of people are scared to invest in themselves. So many millionaires and billionaires spend a minimum of 10% of their income that they make on personal growth and development every year. Yeah. People don't realize that. People say, oh my gosh, like it's $2,000, $3,000 for a, monthly coaching or yearly coaching or whatever that is that you want to do on whatever scale. Yeah. And they're like, oh, that's way too much, all this different stuff. But you don't realize it's not like you're going to go to one conference, and sometimes those conferences are great. You'll go there, learn a few things, take your notes, but it's the consistent stacking of those things. And one of the coaches, we obviously have Joshua too in Tampa, who is our mentor, and we love him. And he introduced us to this man in Texas that we do all this coaching. His name's Keith Kraft, and he calls himself a think coach. If you change your thinking, you change your life on anything you do, whether that's business or your marriage or friendships. And I really think that's the key right there. It's just never not learning and growing, and like life can just be incredible if you do that.
Well, I'm going to bring that realist back into real estate. And I think you've come in at a different angle than the average real estate. You're one out of 1,000, if not more, real estate. You're coming in because you were born into the business, into the investor, the flipping, and seeing what real estate can be, versus obviously the standard agent gets licensed and then they're out there just trying to find a client who wants to buy a home. And you have a broader, because of the angle you came in at, you have a broader vision of what's out there, because you're not only doing what the standard agent's doing, you see all the other potential when you walk in an older part of town, or maybe a town that the St. Johns County client doesn't even want to go near. You see opportunity.
I just had a conversation. There's a South African investor that I'm working with, and she has a few different projects right now that she buys them as flips. I do the interior design work and then relist for just like a higher commission for it. And she has this property that's on Franklin Street, just right outside of downtown, north of it, kind of over by the stadium. And we were talking about on the way here odds of like, okay, should we keep it as a rental? Should we flip it? And so I was telling her about the $5 billion that's going into downtown with the Gateway River Jacks and the build up downtown and all that kind of different stuff. So it's nice to have that background information and see the potential for people that are open to having different avenues of their end game, just to have it in their
So someone
interest.
might think through that process and say, all right, we need to renovate it, but we don't have to renovate it to sell. We need to renovate it to rent.
Yeah, completely
which might
different.
be a different level.
Yeah.
And then we're going to rent it for, because this may, it could be 5 or 6 years before we really start to see the project come to some sort of completion, and then seeing people obviously reacting to it and seeing it as a desirable area. So we may be on a 5, 6, 7 year rental process, and then we may then at that point renovate it again. Now it's just more polishing it, because now we're going to sell it, because now we're going to get a higher price point than we did 5 years earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just being smart with the investing and having a good team behind you that can actually give you true insight and advice, just depending on area and the best strategy. But yeah, I mean, we saw that so much in Tampa. You know, we live south of Gandy in Tampa, which is right by the Air Force Base. And whenever we first bought our property over there, it was, you know, a great little neighborhood, but it was not, you know, a super popular spot. But we knew there was 2 Publixes coming in 5 minutes between our house. And that was the joke always in Tampa, is like, all right, like, where's the Publix going in?
Yeah, right.
There's a Publix in sight. There's a massive research going on about the growth and development of that area. And that was the best project that we had ever bought. And we lived in there, and then, you know, sold it whenever we moved to Jacksonville. And it's really cool just to feel like you're on the before end of those development areas, especially Jacksonville. We are in a golden era right now.
Yeah. I think it's, you know, the jobs are here. And like I said, people who live here say, oh, it's coming in unaffordable, but actually, I'm sure you have stats on this, how affordable Northeast Florida is compared to what's Tampa's become. Obviously, you know, whether you're Southwest or Southeast Florida are blown out. They're not affordable. I mean, I lived in Naples 20 years ago, and what it is today going down there, it's crazy, and the price points are out of control.
We are the last coastal city in Florida that has not just been absolutely booming on escalation of price point. I mean, we have Miami, Naples, Tampa, Orlando, Jacksonville. Jacksonville's massive and just as big as some of these other areas.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see what it could look like in 5 and 10 years.
I've added this segment in here. I want to talk a little bit about, because your price point lending is a big factor. What are some challenges that you are seeing, or you wish there was more of in the price point? A lot of these, you know, sub 400,000 probably that you're seeing in the first time home buyer, especially with rates as high as they are. What are some of the challenges that you are having to deal with? Sometimes it's really tight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the good thing is buyers do have a little bit more me in the game on asking for closing costs right now. So that does help them a good amount. Just on
the appraisals are there, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they're fortunate. Have you had a low appraisal recently?
I haven't had as many appraisal issues as I used to. Sometimes that still is a problem, as you have an appraiser come in from a different county and they come in and they don't see the value of the neighborhood and it's just black and white. And you're like, man, how do you see this? But I always tell people, appraisers, you cannot touch them. They have the word. You know, like, there's almost nothing you can do if an appraiser thinks something different than, you know, what you need it to be. But I really haven't had too many issues. The good thing in Jacksonville and just around all of Florida is, like, there's a lot of creative people, a lot of great lenders like yourself that can really look at things from different angles and find a solution. So I'm trying to think. I don't think I had one buyer that couldn't get qualified, but like he just did not need to buy a home. Sometimes people just don't quite have enough money. It's not the best choice for them, you know. But most everyone else, you know, I have found a solution, whether that's more closing costs or a lower price point or maybe a higher price point, but you know, certain terms that work better for them, like a new appliance package, or like, you know, you can just get creative, and that's the amazing thing about
we'll talk about the creative part of it, because a lot of times you know, there's been many deals in 20 years where, you know, hey, we had to wait till they get their pay stub on Friday to show that money in their account so we can close next Tuesday or Wednesday type of thing. You know, where, they are just skirting on. Or I imagine in some places, I think you were leading to, hey, the price is $200,000, but they need some concessions. Let's actually make the offer at $205 and get $5,000 cut back. And like I said, fortunately enough, the appraisers are coming in at the $205, so it works. That type of thing. But being creative and reworking the deal sometimes, so that obviously the seller's getting what they need out of it. And the buyer obviously getting what they need to get the deal done.
Yeah. Like for right now, I'm actually hopefully going under contract on a deal today for a buyer. She found this beautiful townhouse in the South Side area. In the contract, getting all new appliances, getting a 3% closing cost credit, but also maybe adjusting the price a little bit higher, so maybe she can get even more percentages so she can renovate a few things. On this one, they're very handy, so she'll just be using that money towards like a bathroom or a kitchen or paint or whatever. But just sometimes adding in, different things like the appliances or, adjusting like the price point helps a lot.
Many people don't know this. You may or may not know, because actually one of the questions when I was talking about, we were going through all the different, desirabilities and renovations. Like you said, you were checking the windows from an energy efficiency part of it. Is that something that you guys look for to really bring up the house to 2025 levels? So, yeah.
New windows are awesome. I mean, if it is in the right price point and we look at like different kind of windows. Like a lot of times the old aluminum windows, or like if they're crank windows, replace the windows like 100%.
Yeah.
But sometimes the older windows that are just aluminum, it just depends on the price point if you have them. It also depends if it's a rental or if you look at the comps. That's the biggest thing a lot of times on these renovations. Look at what else is selling in the area. If the other things are selling in the area for aluminum windows that maybe you just refresh, put some new hardware on, just do that. You don't want to over improve if it doesn't call for that, even though that'd be amazing. If you can put new windows and everything, awesome. But as I was talking earlier, I live in an old 1940s beach bungalow. We have the original windows in those, and it adds character. Like people almost love that more than if they were just standard windows.
Yeah. Just Florida has just a different demand from the heat. I mean, we are in a little cold spot again, unfortunately, here today. But I wanted to lead also into the energy efficiency, is that like the VA loan, they'll give them $6,000 to spend on energy efficient, water heater, windows, whatever, and just add it to the loan. Which is unique. And agents, if you're out there and you are dealing with a VA client and you're in one of these older homes, like, hey, it needs a hot water or maybe a new AC.
Yeah.
To get that $6,000 and have them just add it to the loan. You don't need a higher appraisal. Doesn't mean the appraisal has to come in $6,000 higher.
Yeah.
They will actually give them $6,000 to put a more energy efficient HVAC system in. Maybe that HVAC system costs 8 or 10, but at least they're able to put 6 of it into the into the mortgage.
I didn't know that, so that's really cool to know.
Yeah, little tidbit. I think more people should be looking for that, because I'm sure insurance is a major topic with these older homes.
Yeah.
You were just talking about roofs earlier. I imagine that's another mindset that when you're going out there is going, what is the insurance company going to hit these people with, and could it bump them into an unaffordable category? Because if that insurance is another $100 a month, that could blow some of these first-time home buyers out.
Yeah, the good thing, at least in in Jacksonville, is we don't have as many flood zones. In Tampa Bay, we had to be really cautious with flood zones, and a lot of houses needed flood insurance. So that is at least the nice thing, that you don't have to have another step on flood insurance around here. Because I live like 10 blocks from the beach, and we don't. We're not in a flood zone. So, Jacksonville is kind of funny that way.
But I always quote, it was years ago, I was down at the St. Augustine board and listening to, they were talking about the FEMA flood mats were changing at the time, and the St. Johns County representative that was going through and how the county was handling all and he said, you're in Florida, you should have flood insurance.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if you're not in a flood zone, it doesn't cost as much.
Yeah.
I think on our home, which is, I wouldn't say is average, probably slightly above average in St. Johns County, it was like $500-600 a year, but to have that peace of mind, especially, being so far from the beach and then just seeing what we just saw in North Carolina.
Oh, I know.
Oh my God. Obviously all those people, no flood insurance. They were on the side of a mountain. What they figure what's going to flood, right?
Yeah.
So, what do you think are 3 things that, no, I'm going to change this for you because I think it's a little different, and again, from the angle you come into real estate. What are 3 things that you think, because you are working with some of these buyers agents that are more of your mainstream real estate agent, if we can call them that. What are 3 things you think they need, that you find that they don't really know enough, especially when you're working in some of these older parts of town? some of the uniqueness. I had a deal, or an agent called me a few weeks ago about like the aluminum wiring and things like that. What are two or three things that they should be aware of when working in some of these older parts of town?
Just with like things like aluminum wire, cold wire, and galvanized.
Yeah. How should they be poking? How important? Even probably even before an offer is made, but how important that inspection is. Yeah.
Yeah. I always tell buyers to get a full inspection report. You just need to know those kind of things. I mean, there's always workarounds. Like with aluminum wiring, you can do aluminicons and like the outlets and all those different things like that. But if you have just regular wiring, like obviously that's more favorable. I don't see as much cloth wiring anymore. I used to see that a little bit in Tampa Bay. And if it was Romex insulated cloth wiring, then you could get away with it. But if it wasn't, you couldn't get away with it. But now also insurance in Florida is cracking down. I feel like every year it's just stricter and stricter on stuff, which makes sense just because they do, those insurance companies get slammed by the flooding or different things that come up. So I think just crossing your T's and dotting your I's and knowing what you have and knowing what might need to go into it, whether that's after you have bought the property or if it's a seller that you can negotiate and get them to do a good amount of things beforehand so that you can not have to worry about that on the back end. Maybe that's paying a little bit more. Like I had a deal that that VA buyer I was talking about earlier, he wanted to put in a new back door, have a new refrigerator, and then put a new fence all along the back perimeter of the backyard, negotiate that into the contract, adjust the numbers so it made sense. So I think just planning ahead and knowing that beforehand, and also maybe home warranties. I'm not like a massive home warranty advocate, but like they can be really beneficial for certain buyers if they have tighter money or are concerned if not everything is new. So
in the older areas, I imagine the breaker box. That I've seen that challenge deals.
Yeah.
Obviously roofs. Imagine for you guys when you go look at a house, if a roof is how old, you're like, we're replacing the roof.
We actually had that conversation. My brother-in-law works with us, and he was looking at this incredible deal down in San Jose today. I'm like, oh, lock that up. That seems incredible. I want to renovate it, And the roof was a 2017 roof, which should be fine. What
7
is that?
years, say 7.5 years. Yeah.
And he's like, it just looks old and kind of worn. I'm like, that's the difference. I guess the sellers, I told him that they paid about 10, 12 grand for it. But, maybe it was a bad roofer. Maybe they didn't put the right kind of shingle.
I will give you this tip. we've had the roof replaced since then because it was, technically hail damage. Everybody in our neighborhood did it. But my wife had a power wash guy go up there and he sprayed a chemical on it and washed it off, made the roof look brand new.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes it's just that we see a little like mold or whatever growing on it. It makes it look old and,
Yeah. I think anything over, because obviously insurance does not really like to see anything older than like 18 years. That's kind of where they start really
10 they start cutting back.
Yeah.
At 10 years, you're going to start to see the number of insurance companies available are starting to diminish. At 18,
they're like, nope.
No matter what you're willing to pay, they're not willing to insure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, probably anything after like 12, 14 is when you just put on, even if it looks nice, or I mean, you can keep it on and then just see and negotiate that and be like, hey, seller's willing to do the roof if the buyers would like for the roof to be. But if it is a really good roof, or say it's metal or something like that, sometimes those metal roofs can last forever. We had a old triplex in Tampa that we owned that the roof was a 1920s roof, and we bought it like 4 years ago or so, and that thing lasted 100 years. Should have lasted 100 years? Probably not, but it did. And we put another
or
one on there.
The tile roofs, which you see a lot in South Florida, those tile roofs, I mean, they've been on houses for 50 years.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Some stuff is made to last, but the year gets to it a lot of times on people's perspective.
Would you, knowing what you know, knowing the houses and some of the things you guys have there, because I'm thinking of one of the probably the more, besides the circuit breaker box being I guess there was something. So they were done. If the house is older than 76 or 78, they could have had these boxes at that time. So they want the insurance. I think that's the name of them. But they're older than that. You definitely want to be checked. Well, the inspector should immediately tell you got a problem here. You got one of these ones that were recalled decades ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. The type of wiring. What about the type of plumbing?
I mean, usually you'll just see PVC or PVPC piping. It's either usually those two. Sometimes you'll find, like if you get a sewer scope, sometimes there'll be like the clay, but that's usually just if it's a connection into the city. But a lot of times you'll find that galvanized piping, because certain galvanized piping, same kind of thing, might last 100 years, it might last 50 years, you know, and then maybe you'll just wake up and start getting a little bit of slow leak.
Or who knows what truck drove over it,
Yeah.
the front yard, and crushed it.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Well, that's also a whole nother thing that we didn't go into is Jacksonville's 60% septic. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of, drain fields and septic, or maybe they're more, their aunt and uncle came over and put the septic tank in, and they weren't, a professional septic company. So that's a massive ticket item that a lot of people need to watch out for too.
That's a good tip.
I have some properties that it'll be, like they've lived in it for 20 years and they haven't had any issues, but then they get it inspected and they're like, oh,
and they're nowhere near the city to tap into the city.
Yeah. Because the city is going through a big transition period. But I mean, that could take 10 years probably for them to add in different spots. So you do come across septic a lot, which septic's not something to be scared of. You just have to know it's septic,
get it inspected,
and then just know every few years to pump it and just kind of know if there's any.
Yeah, where I grew up on Cape Cod, that was pretty standard to have a septic tank. But these older homes to run the scope through the pipes, spend the extra whatever amount of money, because that could be a catastrophic event. It might be working fine now. Somebody else new comes in. It might be working fine because the house has been sitting empty for a period of time. Yeah. And we think it's running fine, but actually that pipe it has problems, and they could have issues later to run the scope through that pipe and make sure. Because digging up the front yard and everything else like that to get it out to the street where you do have the septic. Finish up. Tell us a little bit about. You talked about the quality of the workmanship that you're doing. Obviously, you and your husband aren't hammering nails and painting and selling the houses and buying them. So somebody else has got to do that. Yeah. What are the connections that you have? Obviously, you're keeping these crews busy. Keep feeding them the next home, and the next home, so they have consistent work. Because I think that's important when you're doing your own projects. Obviously, I'm sure you're tapping into those guys that you know already. But if someone's investing in a house today, just them, they're not in the business that you guys are regularly in on a daily basis. It can be hard to find a great contractor and do quality work
and trustworthy contractors. I mean, I've seen this count and count again where people will, a contractor will give them a great bid and seem nice and show up for the first few weeks, and then you pay them in full, and then they walk away and don't show up.
They start the next job.
Yeah,
so they can get paid.
You never want that to happen, but that's why it's always important to know the draw system. Get referrals. And you always just have to have a really tight communication. Like on all my projects, I stop in once a week. If you need to stay on top of that kind of stuff. But for regular people that maybe aren't doing like a full size renovation project, going to meetups, we're massive meetup people, and there's contractors left and right at meetups. And a lot of times,
tell me about that meetups. What?
Any kind of meetups. Like we're like a corporate sponsor at Jax RIA, which is like Jacksonville Real Estate Investors Association, and the RIA hosts, so many events per month and per year, and they have great contacts on, even if you're just curious on this kind of stuff, just go to a RIA and chat, and they have amazing guest speakers. There's also Yellowbird host a meetup once every month or a few months, and they're awesome. Fly Rep, there's like a lot of cool meetups that are coming about that are maybe people in the investment space, or maybe just in regular real estate. A lot of just regular agents come, and any regular buyers can come too, and you'll meet contractors.
What is the difference between, I want to ask this question. These guys are going to these meetings as they're obviously hoping to try, like any sales guy, they're probably, these are large enough groups that they're sending their representative down there and meeting up with you guys, hopefully getting the, what's a possible job coming on that they are new, but they've chosen renovation over, with all the new construction going on, because I imagine the new construction, they're just give me the cheapest guy. So your skill of labor is not high because of what you're paying out. Versus the renovation, that same drywall work on a renovation obviously may cost a little bit more than obviously on the new construction, but the quality of it you expect to be a little bit higher? Do you see a really defined line that, hey, these guys are more renovation contractors. This is the realm they want to be in. They don't want to be down in these tract homes. They're just slapping up, making a couple bucks versus maybe a couple $100 on a renovation.
Well, new construction's a whole nother ball game. I haven't personally done a new construction. I mean, I've sold new constructions, but I haven't,
Built a home from scratch.
Built a new home from the scratch, which would be cool one day. But a lot of times, that's a whole longer process. City permits and just the waiting game of a new construction versus going into a project and having a 4 to 8 week renovation timeline. So,
well, I guess where I'm going to is the mindset of the contractors. Because I think the average person doesn't realize, when you get down to the brass tacks of business, I'm going to build these 1,000 homes in this subdivision, and you're going to be my drywall guy. So you're going to make a couple pennies off each house versus the renovation guy. He's working on that one home, and if he's just a drywall guy, well, he's only called in for that one home. You're not necessarily building 10 homes at the same time where he's drywalling for the next 2 weeks, type of thing. But obviously they're going to charge a little more per square foot or whatever it is, right? But the demand and quality, and it's a different contractor.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, do you find that, like, when you go to these meetings, the quality of who you're talking to that's going to be delivered that you demand?
Well, sometimes we'll be like, okay, like, this person is going to be a little bit more expensive, but they're reliable. They'll get the job done. They're consistent. Whereas this person, they can get it done in 4 weeks and just knock it out and should be pretty good, but like the other guy might be a little bit better quality. But I mean, as for like new construction versus regular construction, like the contractors in my experience that usually I'll have on some of my properties and a lot of the investors will use, like, have their own team that always stays with them. So maybe there's a team of 6 or 10 and they have their electrician guy, their plumbing guy. So that's the importance of always feeding them properties and keeping them in the pipeline so that they stay busy. And once they finish up at one project, they just roll to the other one.
Right. No, I think people need to understand, doing the same work on a renovation could cost a little bit more, but you want to be looking for these contractors that you're talking about, that this is what they do. They are doing and the reason they're doing renovation is because they're good and they can actually make more money doing that, which then, hopefully, obviously, their mindset is, I'm going to deliver a great product for you and you're going to give me the next house and the next house and the next house. Yeah. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. I feel like we covered some fun
we
ground here.
covered a lot of ground, and I think I want to leave with agents who are listening to look into NetWorth, because you guys do have projects coming on. Just as you're looking into new constructions and what spec houses they have that's available for quick move-ins, they also need to know, hey, we just started this renovation. We expect it to be done in June, whatever, and the be leading their buyers in that direction. Should they have them come across, they need to stay in touch with you as a resource.
Or if they have a listing of a distressed property, like, we're boots in the ground. We have like a brick and mortar business, so we're always looking for realtors to connect and network that way. We do have a meetup in March. I think it's March 16th. We host like a quarterly meetup at the Intuition Brewery meetup on the rooftop there. So that's always fun for people to come and get free food and a beer and connect with all different kinds of people too.
That agent that has that distress listing, because I can hear them say this, well, they're just going to come in and lowball me.
No.
Tell us why it's advantageous for them to at least let you take a swing at it.
Yeah. Well, we have a reasoning behind any kind of offer. Like, we will call them from the driveway with the offer, with a reasoning of, say, X, Y, and Z. This is what it's worth. This is what needs to go into it. This is how. This is why we need to buy it, where we need to buy it. Also, we're like trustworthy. We can like come in and show them like, hey, like, here's all of our like redacted Altas from 2024 and slap it on the table, showing, I think it was like 252 properties we closed last year. That speaks a lot, We're reliable.
I know some of the competitors that you have, Miss St. George, was working with, was it Gilbert? Anyway, she was in here, and she was paying agents that would find these properties And for like, say they come across, someone calls up and they go in there and go, oh my, yeah, this is going, and they call you and refer you in. Do you have any incentive?
Oh yeah,
for that? Yeah.
100%. But like, I'm not in acquisitions or like a salesperson on
Mm-hmm.
that. So I would just always tell people like they can reach out to me and I can get them connected to like the best person to chat with them about that. But I never like to speak on it because like there's so many better of my associates that can like really dive in and show like really the maximized potential of like what you could do by working with them, if that makes sense.
Right. So it isn't just a handoff or anything like that. That it is advantageous for them to call and get your guys' opinion on
Very
a
much
particular property.
So. We work with a lot of repeat people. We love relationships. That's what our whole business is about.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you expanded the horizon of some agents, that are out there. One, what's available in the for real estate agents. Obviously, you were brand new, came in, got rocking and rolling really early, and maybe something for a new agent from that aspect, but also to know that there are people out there like yourself in NetWorth Realty that are out there finding these homes and renovating. And there's some agents who run upon a lot of first-time, especially newer agents. They run a lot of times on first-time home buyers, and that to be making that connection with you to see what's coming up, to see if you've got something under $300,000 that's someone who doesn't have a lot of cash. I know here at Town Bank, we've got some grant money that's coming out here on the 24th from the Federal Home Loan Bank.
Nice.
So I should have training on it, and I will share that with you.
Yes, please.
Because I know that depending on whatever level and their income, they all got attachments to them, but they're changing some of the things with the Federal Home Loan Bank, but that launches on the 24th. That money will be available.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's grant money. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Don't have to pay it back. Yeah.
I love that. Yes. Let's chat.
Yes, let's chat. Claire, appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.